Almost every single franchise has been adapted into Lego to some degree, whether that be a Lego set or a full-on video game. As I have recently watched Cloak and Dagger for the first time, I thought I would check out the DLC Lego Marvel Superheroes 2 received off the back of it and see how good it actually is. So let's get into it. So first off, we have Dagger. Now, she is very comic accurate, I think. If you look at her outfit, that is nothing like what she wore in the show. When you tap your use button on whichever platform you're on, she will get out one of these daggers. It's kind of way too bright for you to actually see, but it is her dagger. It's ridiculously bright though. If you hold this button though now, she will do a charge attack, and when you let go, it does something pretty cool. We never see that in the show, but we do see her fire off daggers in quick succession multiple times. She does have a few separate animations as well that I think are unique to her. So when you do a double jump, she does this flip and she does this weird land. I'm not sure if that's for all acrobatic characters. It could be. She also has another one for when you're landing from a jump while moving. I don't know if this is like your equivalent of your Black Widow landing pose. Her attack button then, when she does a jump attack, she slams the ground with light. Now her normal attack is just throwing a dagger. Like this. If you attack while walking towards someone, she'll do this move. Which I remember seeing in the show. I mean, they might have, I don't remember it, but that's also pretty cool. The only other thing is not very different, but whenever you target onto anything with her, it just fires a dagger. So, I mean, a lot of it's obviously accurate because the show is accurate to the comics. Now, next is Cloak, and he is definitely in his comic book accurate suit, without a doubt. But we did see a Cloak similar to this in season 1 of Cloak and Dagger, which was his brother's like bead work that he was doing for his dad and things like that. I can't remember the name of the group. I'll put an image up on screen. Now for Cloak, he is quite interesting. Now if you attack while walking towards someone, he does this really cool dashy spin. We don't necessarily see that in the show, but I kind of wish we did now. So now his normal attacks, normal attack. Now this next one's probably one of my favorite things he has. If you hold his attack button and aim it at something, he roll dashes towards it. And you can combo chain this between things and it looks pretty cool. His next thing is his ground slam, and that is pretty neat. His next thing is his usability, where if you tap it, it goes invisible, which I think is pretty cool. I mean, it's the only way you're really going to be able to do it in a Lego form. And now if you hold it, he does this thing where he spins in the air. Not as exciting as Dagger in my opinion, but still pretty cool. So yeah, that's Cloak and Dagger from this pack. They're very comic book accurate, not very show accurate, which I think for most people that are going to be playing a game like this, not a bad thing. I think for the most part, they're quite fun to use and their abilities are quite cool. So now this level, I think it's a decent level, but the story of them is very different to the show. So Gwenpool explains it, but basically they just get experimented on by some scientists and they're just people that somewhat know each other. I don't know if this is comic book accurate, but if you watch the TV show, that is nothing like their origin at all. And I kind of think this explanation is a lot better than the show. I haven't made a video going over my opinions of Cloak and Dagger, but my main dig about it is their powers are just never explained. And when you come to season 2, spoiler alert, the villain is related to their powers. And I just think when you don't explain them, it doesn't quite work. Now this level starts at docks like this, and honestly, it looks very similar to the one from the first episode where Tyrone's brother Billy dies. Obviously Cloak here, he has his teleport ability. There's no real way of using that because he can't have his own ability in the game. So whenever you got a teleport pad, he can kind of do his thing. It's the best with what they can do, I'd say. They also have the ability, both Cloak and Dagger, to make objects hover like this, like telekinesis. I remember seeing that in the show. As you can see here, like this city here looks a little different to New York. So I wonder if this is New Orleans like it is in the show. I'm not sure if that's like where their origin is all the time, or if that's just strictly that TV show. So Dagger's main ability that gets used in this game so far is basically just levitating objects, which is kind of unfortunate. I think having someone that can literally make like anything out of light, from daggers to swords, I think they should have more range of abilities, you know, like sort of like Green Lantern. I'm not sure if that's breaking like canon and stuff in the comics, but for me, I think that would have been pretty cool. Now the villain in this level is called Blackout, and I did not see them in the TV show. From doing research, I don't think they're a typical Cloak and Dagger villain. And from doing some research, they don't have typical villains. Most of the villains that I've found, they are all other characters' main villains. So there'll be like a Spider-Man villain, which I find quite interesting. For the most part, I kind of was expecting them to have their own villains. But it makes more sense now why in the show that it was two completely new people. Yeah, it's a fun, short little level. I mean, I think it lacks in certain puzzles because of the characters having limited abilities, but there's not much they can do about that. So obviously, I enjoyed the show, and I was hoping that this level pack would have been a bit more faithful to that, but it kind of wasn't. As someone who doesn't read many of the comics, it's kind of disappointing. The characters they included should have been more in the show. I think if you had like Bridget or Mayhem, maybe you could have had like Auntie or Vita, you know, as like a psychic. You could have even had Andre in there, maybe. I don't know. I think there's a few more characters from that show you could have included and had in this to make it feel more like that. I honestly thought as well that they could have had a style where it's the characters from the show wearing their like show version of the outfits, you know? So like you've got like Tyrone in just this like black hoodie, or you've got her in her like ballet outfit. I thought that could have been pretty cool. So I think they definitely missed out on that. For the most part, the characters are somewhat of a letdown because I think you can't do too much with them. You can do a bit more with Cloak, which I like because I personally prefer that character. But with Dagger, you cannot do like anything. Like you literally have psychic ability, make things float. That's all. And I didn't even see a single bit of that in the TV show. The level pack as well, I think if you're making it where this comes into the game because the TV show's made, I think you got to focus the level around that. I think that's where most people are going to know it from. Having the other characters as well could have meant this could have been a 3-character level, which just gives you more abilities. The puzzles in the level are very boring. It's basically just the Cloak teleport like 4 times and then her using her telekinesis thing like twice. I don't think it works necessarily. If you made it this far, you probably enjoyed the video. And you also like Marvel. And they're smaller TV shows that just are not counted as canon. So I highly recommend you watch this video on Agent Carter's 3rd season that we just never